No, never, never, never. It's the worst thing that you can do. It's really the worst thing that you can do.
We
Exactly.
can read it. We can read it. Danny, please say something about yourself. Who are you? Where do you live? And what do you do in your day-to-day life?
I live in Belgium. I don't accept the defaults. Let's say I'm a person on the autism spectrum. I have founded my own non-profit TD software. We connect the IT industry with the social industry. And my biggest passion, or one of my biggest passions, is accessibility, making the world more accessible for everyone and for people with disabilities, even for people with disabilities that lots of people didn't heard about before. And also the intersection between the IT industry and the social industry is something that's really dear to me, very, very down to my heart.
Okay.
And of course, being active in the Microsoft community, speaking at lots of conferences in person, if possible, yay! And if I can help the community on a virtual one, I do it.
That sounds great.
Well, we're glad you're making some time for us.
Yes. And
Of
also
course.
because this topic is very, very important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So today, well, I'm quite sure you're going to talk about accessibility again, but in combination with AI, right?
Yeah.
So with
And
that,
I had a difficult task.
with that, I'm going to give you the platform. You can share
Perfect.
your screen if you have some slides, and
Yeah, I have.
we're looking forward to your session.
Thank you. Okay, do you see my slides? Do you see my
Yes, we
slides?
see. Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
we see your
So,
brain.
welcome on my talk, AI for the better. And if I say the life for the better, I say life of the better, life of people with disabilities. The content for today will be wrapped up, and I can talk 1 hour or even more about this topic, and I only was given 20 minutes, so I need to make some painful decisions in what to skip, what to cut off the talk. But the good thing is you can rewatch it on other conferences. You can come to other conferences that I speak about that topic. But the most important thing that I made for today was getting you inspired with how you can use cognitive services and apply services from Microsoft to create solutions that helps people with disabilities to have a more accessible and inclusive world. Because I really believe in the thing that if you don't know what's possible, yeah, then you cannot make it. It's very, very 1 plus 1 is 2. So I'm going to talk about accessibility and about disabilities. And then I'm going to talk how we can use Microsoft Cognitive and AI applied services for the better. So I'm Danny de Klerk and I'm president and developer at the DSoft. And the DSoft is a non-profit, so that connects the IT industry with the social industry. Next to that, I'm very proud that I am a Microsoft MVP. It's really my passion to travel all over the world and even virtual, inspire people what to do with my favorite stack of technology, the Microsoft technology. I'm very active on Twitter with my Twitter handle at Danny de Klerk. And what's even more important than my handle is my hashtag that I created myself, dreaming is believing, about making dreams come true. So we are going to talk about accessibility, and for that we're going to start about talking about people with disabilities. And we have various kinds of people with disabilities. It's a full spectrum, and let's start scratching that surface a little bit. So we have people with disabilities with touch. By example, people with only having one arm. But also the spectrum is not always people who are having a disability, or as people sometimes call it, being disabled for the whole life, for always. No. If you just have a temporary situation, for example, an arm injury, then on that moment you have a disability, for example, to control a handheld devices that need 2 hands for input device, for example. Or you can even be a new parent, having your little baby on your arms. We also call it in the disability spectrum because on that time you cannot do the same thing as without the baby in your child. And I love that we also adding the situational disabilities. For me, it sounds like humanizing the fact what a disability is or being disabled on a moment. I really love that thing. So the same is for seeing. You can be blind or nearly completely blind. You can have a low vision, or you can just being distracted, by example, in transport. And I say public transport because I will not encourage people to take their phone and drive. But let's imagine you are on the train, so you don't need to drive. But maybe there are, or on the bus, there are so much stops, and you are just with your device. Yeah, you are very distracted, and maybe you can measure your stop. So the same for her. It can be temporary or situational or permanent, like being deaf or being hard of hearing. You also can just have an ear infection, by example, change of the weather, maybe a bit too cold shower and going directly outside. Okay, boom, ear infection. So on that air, you are sometime a period of time disabled. Speak, you have non-verbal, heavy accent. People with a heavy accent does fit in the spectrum because on that moment that they talk to people with a heavy accent, they are less able or disabled to do the same thing as people without that accent. And you can so also have a mouth infection. And then you have cognition. So people with learning disabilities. And one example of people that may have so one diagnosis that covers automatically, by example, a learning disability is people with Down syndrome. But there are also other medical conditions that triggers a learning disability. But again, you are just having temporary memory difficulties. Maybe if after this night, after speaking today, I will drink a lot tonight, after this meeting. And maybe tomorrow I have some slightly memory difficulties. I hope I'm not at bad time. I'm not that bad. But it's just how human disability can be. That's what we will show. That can be that it is. And mental health is also at this time fitting into disability spectrum. And this targets neurodiversity, by example, autism, dyslexia, also people with autism, dyslexia, people with, oh my God, Danny, what are you saying? I'm not coming on the word. Oh my God, it's not too far. Okay, yeah, dyslexia, autism, ADHD is what I was searching for. So there's also neurodiversity differences. Anxiety, so at that time that it's situational again, or very temporal. By example, you have a very moment that really triggers your anxiety feeling, your anxious feeling. On that moment, you cannot think as good or as the same as people without having that anxiety or that mental block. So you can be confused, stressed. Maybe you had bad news, and I had bad news today, and I'm still here. I'm very proud of myself. Nothing about that anymore. So, but going to talk about people with learning disabilities, because that is the disability that is less known by developers, less known by other software engineers. And to have a learning disability, you always have both in your diagnosis. You have an intellectual dysfunction and less intellectual functioning, or difficulties with intellectual functioning, and difficulties with adaptive behavior. So intellectual functioning is also called intelligence. It's your mental capacity. It's a lower IQ score, and it can even be below 70. So really, the brain, by example, of it's very evil to compare them with a child, but some people are doing it, and then think so contra things to talk about comparing adults to childs. But you can say that a very young child, by example, 5 age, hasn't the same knowledge of what an adult should have. And it's maybe evil to compare them, but sometimes it's just more tangible for people, because I know a lot of developers and even people who are not developers who cannot have an image, by example, by a person who cannot read, or a person who cannot understand really simple words or doing some math. So you need to try to find the right wording to make it concrete, but also, of course, not to stigmatize them. And so next to their, so it's goes due to their intellectual functioning, they have difficulties in adaptive behavior. And these are conceptual skills like language, literacy, money and time and numbers, social skills, who also include social responsibility and self-esteem, practical skills and activities doing in daily living, by example, cooking dinner for tonight, and also personal care and what's included with healthcare. And as I said, I also add mental health and autism to the neurodiversity spectrum. And the reason that this here is in white, the cognition and the mental health, if I come back, is because these are the topics these are the people, the disabilities that I'm going to speak about today. Not because these are the only important disabilities to work around, no. Maybe it's more because there are more tools built for people who are blind or people who are hard of hearing, there is more knowledge. And those really, the learning disability and the mental health and autism are my expertise, my specialties, and where I did do the most inventions and breakthroughs. So let's talk about mental health. So, by example, and autism, by example, stress and anxiety. The need to have continuous confirmations for what the person did, for what you did, and then way more than a person without that disability should have. Need for structure, way more. And the need for really easy to understand information is always there, is also there for mental health and autism. And why? Because, for example, if you have mental health issues and you are in a mental block, so a very period of anxiety, then the more clear the information it is to convey, the more chance that you will get it. So my talk was really in two parts. The first part was talking about disabilities, only 10 minutes. It's not a lot, but yeah, I only have 20 minutes. I know, but what can we do with Microsoft Cognitive and applied AI services to help those people? What are the solutions that we can build? And what are the tools that we can use to build those solutions? And why not starting with talking about what are Microsoft cognitive services? So that is Microsoft's developers focused AI platform on Azure. So it's just easy to use APIs so that you can just target with your normal programming language that you use. Is it C#, is it Java, is it Python, is it JavaScript? So there's also REST compatibility, so that you can just make a call to an endpoint and that it do the magic for you. So you don't need to have any AI or mathematical knowledge for this building those services. So as I said, it's built in the Azure suite and it is pay as you go, pay by use. And even you can always say that it is on the serverless stack. Why you can say it? Because it's not only pay as you go like a virtual machine that you boot and you pay for all the hours that it is running. No, you only the executed AI power here, the executed time and executed compute power as you are paid. Of course, there are always other options if you want it, just like the same as other serverless solutions. You can say, I really want it to a dedicated server for always. But if you do it on the serverless way, it's really affordable to start to make things and even have things in production. So we are going to talk about a few services that you can really directly link to help people with disabilities. So the first service that we're going to talk about is the immersive reader. So with the immersive reader, you can read aloud text. You can even read aloud full websites if you implement that service into a website. A nice other feature is linking pictographs to websites. So there are lots of demos about it. You can make a specific UI for the websites that if you click on that you can hover, for example, on a work, and then it can link a pictograph to those works who are on the website. That make it really easy and tangible to understand, for example, for people with learning disabilities. You even have text appearance options. So there's the option to have different polarizing, by example, you can make a distinguishment between verbs and nouns. All the verbs in yellow and green, all the nouns in purple. So why should we use those services? Or what can we build with Immersive Reader? We can make written text accessible, so for people who don't have the skills to read on a normal way written text. An example is people with learning disabilities. People with dyslexia, for example, they can read it, but it asks a lot of cognition for them. We can make it easier. People with elderly, even students who are, for example, in a school having some kind of light disability of learning difference can really be helped with the immersive reader. We have computer vision. With computer vision, you can analyze images, you can label images, you can categorize images, you can do measures on images. So my question is, your question can be, what has this to do with accessibility? Computer vision is there in various ways, and maybe you have seen loads of demos about computer vision and nothing has to do with accessibility. It's true, like all the tools that you can use not for accessibility, you can do accessibility things with this. For example, my AI wardrobe. Let's imagine that you scan and label all the clothes that are in your wardrobe, and you connect your service also to the Wetter API, by example, and your agenda. Then it can predict what you should wear best. And even for me as a person with autism, I can make wrong clothes choices, and then maybe I can be ill, do the wrong clothes choices. My save assistant, by example, if you have a little bit difficulties with motoric restrictions and or not so bad eyes or not so good eyes, yeah, not so bad, not so good eyes, then make a mirror, or even if you don't make really a smart mirror, just building on the phone of your phone, so it can recognize if you are shaved good or not, if you want to shave you, of course. Recognize money, more and more important for people who have difficulties with paying with money with the concept number, as you see, sometimes also important for people with learning disabilities. You can even train those money literacy. You can use it to pay or to help to pay, but you can also build it to train the literacy. Bot services, very important, chatbots, Q&A, knowledge sharing, on-demand services without interrupting others, more about it if I talk about the second column. And confidence. Confidence is in the right column. Proficiat, Denny. Congratulations, Denny. It should be in another column. So it can, again, my artificial mom is my example, a chatbot with all the information that your mom would say was important for you. When you are going to the grocery store, when you are going to the fairground at this time in Austin, close to where I live, it can be in the bot, and then you can ask it continuously to the bot without, so you can give a lot of confirmation. Yes, today is not raining, we are going to the fairground. Yes, today is not raining, we are going to the fairground. But if you ask that each time to your mom, it can become very naggy, and maybe it can get the nerves of your mom, and maybe if your mom not answer or you cannot have the answers, then it can trigger lots of anxiety. But if the bot can give those confirmation, it can reduce your anxiety. It even can help you with giving structure in your life. Language understanding. Analyze language. The broader picture of words. For example, lots of people with learning disabilities, if they are speaking, they are saying some words wrong, and most of the time they are always the same words or the same patterns in words that there is a mispronunciation. If you analyze all these things, you can have a broader picture, or even training custom words. If, for example, a person wants to talk to a chatbot or with speech, but he always calls a word completely wrong, and due to his disability, you will not be able to learn him the right phrasing, you can add that word to the system. Really important. So learn about the language that people, maybe with disabilities, may speak, and really understand what they mean. There's nothing more confusing and frustrating for a coach or a caregiver if a person wants to ask you something, if they say you something, but you can't understand what they mean. So, and even find difficulties, find things that trigger them. Speech, text-to-speech, custom voice assistance, read aloud for people, and that here is read aloud completely decoupled from the immersive reader. You can also do it completely decoupled, and the advantage is that you can use it in other scenarios. So it's really, really one of the most helpful tools for people with learning disabilities. I did it even in the past. Then it was called text-to-speech, like example on a mobile phone, not in the cloud. And now on computer, I do it this since 2012, and I started in Ithaca building software for people with disabilities. But speech can also help for people with dyslexia. If you have difficulties with reading, it succeeds a little bit. But again, the confirmations that you can have make you feel more comfortable. Translating. So what has translating to do with accessibility? And translating is for everyone, of course, but accessibility tools are for everyone. So it can help you to reduce the cognitive workload. Maybe you know the other language, but it makes it easier. And for example, if you have an anxiety block, the more workload is reduced, the better it is. So present information, and it's also really helpful people on the elderly spectrum. People really he didn't use to English or other languages in the past. So to recap that, I only had 20 minutes. I talked very little bit about myself. Then I talked about what is the disability spectrum, and I dig deeper into the learning disability and the neurodiversity, like example, autism, by example, and mental health. And then I link it that really concrete to some Microsoft AI cognitive services and applied AI services, what you really can build with using those APIs to build softwares to make the world better for people with disabilities. Because that was the talk. AI for the better life of people with disabilities. So thank you so much. I hope you have some questions, then I try to answer them. Don't forget dreaming is believing, and the typo in my email address is just denny@ddsoft.be.
So thank you, Daniel, a lot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Great. So thank you a lot for your session. It was really amazing, and it's really, really valuable to hear about how accessibility is an issue when, like, in every areas really, but with AI, how well we can handle the situations. That's really amazing, and it was great
Thank you.
to see it.
Yeah, I think I have one question though for you, Danny. Yesterday we had the keynotes from Eric Boyd also, and he
Yeah.
was really saying like next coming years we'll probably do a lot more with voice assistants.
Yeah.
How is voice assistant, can it be balanced out with people who have accessibility issues? Problems, not issues.
It's a very interesting question, and I think here we need to split it. And first of all, look at which disability. I think on long term the answer always should be yes, but there will be more workarounds.
Yeah.
The short answer, for example, for people who don't have a learning disability, but the whole neurodiversity and mental health and confirmations, I think this will be great, but then it should also be needed to be in all the native languages for all the people.
Yeah.
Thus, on the short term, it will be perfect solution. On the long term, we can think about people with learning disabilities, and I never, if I talk about technology, say no, but we need to be in mind that those people, most of the time, let's say, in fact, always, are really mispronouncing different words and even having different words for like the normal use that they are. So then you really should also do a lot of investing on so really learning the language understanding functions, and maybe it can be needed to build models on a very, very specific person or on a very specific center for people with disabilities. So it will be more work. I hope it will be there. But then, of course, the language should be in all the languages, and there will be more work for people with learning disabilities, because I think we will need to rework some models to their own way of raising things. Yeah.
Of course. Let's say you are an English speaker how accessible is a Google speaker or an Apple Siri speaker?
I played with Alexa myself, so as non-native English speaker, but with normal intellectual functioning. I have one in my home. Of course, we are geeks, and geeks play with tools. That's our task. That's our duty. And let's say some words are really going well in English, but I really need to, even I need to think about my accent. If I really don't think about my accent, or they see really misunderstand me, then I can yell to her, Alexa, are you stupid? Yeah, but then if I really do my best to phrase it on the right way with the right accents, but we need to be sure if we really want to help people, disabilities or not, if we really want to make it common sense for all people, they shouldn't do their best to phrase and articulate and pronounce it well. Maybe it will work, but it will not common sense.
Yeah.
It should be work like I'm talking to you, in English or in Dutch. Without, and even not speaking to audience right now, you do already a bit more your best in pronunciation. It should be just the same that you are talking to your parents, to your friends, to your FFFs, and we are not there yet, even not with Alexa. No,
Yeah, so
not
that
at all.
means just
But it works.
It means more improvements in the speech-to-text services, so they can also
Yeah.
understand better people who are
Yeah.
not native speakers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I also ask one more question?
No, you can't.
I meant if we still have some
Yeah,
time.
we still have
I
some
think
time.
so, yes. So yeah, we were talking about that what is accessible now, what should be improved for the better. But I'm interested in how do you see the future? So how far do you think this technology will get with accessibility in the, say,
Yeah, that's
5
really
years,
interesting,
let's say?
honestly. I think we need to see it on two things. You can say the future, it will depend on three parties. The first party will be the big tech, like Microsoft. The second party will be the smaller tech as using the big tech. So it's are the corporations, the organizations, the businesses, the non-profits that build solutions with the APIs and all the tools, even not only APIs, that the big tech is providing. That's the second party. The third party will be the people in common who like it, that they are open to use it. There is still, you need to be honest about it. There are still people who are most of the time, or always, these people are not in IT who are really saying, I don't want AI. I don't want that my life is AI. So I'm really not willing to use it. So they really need to be still in. And honestly, I think big tech is already a really good way. Except speaking, really speaking, speech to text, so not text to speech, it's already there, but speech to text that I really not completely covered, but the question came from, except that one, all those solutions like the wardrobe, like the system for shaving, combining tools who choose my clothes are perfectly possible to build. All the APIs are there in the backend. The big tech built everything already. It's there. Even text to speech, the whole thing, not speech to text. But the time for the smaller tech to really build for people with disabilities, we are not there yet. Even we RDDs of envision more than we can build practically in hours and manpower to build. And then you have the adoption, and you can say that the big tech there is already, but all the rest need to come. And that's the reason that I talk, because that I give this presentation and talk, because there's already so much that we can build as developers with what big tech provided.
Exactly.
Yes, I really like your views, and I really liked your session as well. It was
Thank
great
you.
to see you.
Yeah, but with that, we will need to close down our session. Danny, thank you
know.
very much for your time. En tot
Thank
dan,
you.
hè.
Thank you. Tot dan, hè?
Salut, hè.
Tot in Mechelen in december.
See you in Mechelen.
Bye.
All right, Danny,
Take
bye-bye.
care.
Bye.